Hi everyone and welcome to your first lesson on percentages. So this week we're going to start looking at some percentages, which ties in quite nicely with what we did last week with regards to our fractions, because we're going to be working with some fractions this week as well. Okay, so same as some of the lessons we've done before, I'd like you to pause the video and try these 3 questions for me. Okay, for this one here I have numbered that wrong, so let's just change that to a 3. Okay, so pause the video, answer these questions. Once you come back, we'll go over the answers. Okay, welcome back. So for question number 1, we have to find a third of £27. So that means we're doing 27 divided by 3. Remember, fractions of quantities, we divide by the bottom number and we times by the top number. 27 divided by 3 gives me 9. If I times 9 by 1, it just stays as 9, so my final answer is £9. Okay. Right, question number 2, we have to find 3/5 of 500 grams, so we're dividing by 5 to give us 100, and then we're timesing by 3 to give me 300 grams as my final answer. Okay. Right, question number 3, we're doing 7/10 minus 4/10, so if I have 7 of something and I take away 4 of the same thing, I am left with 3 of whatever it is, so in this case it would be 3/10. Okay. Right, okay, what we're doing today, our learning intention, we are learning what the term percentage means and how it's connected to a fraction and a decimal. Okay. We will know if we've been successful if we understand the term percentage and if we understand the connection between what a percentage is to change it into a fraction and then into a decimal. Okay. Okay, so where have you seen this symbol before? What does it stand for? So we're talking about percentages. Percent means out of 100. It means the percent, so it's per 100. Okay. If we look at this grid here, I have got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. By 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I have 10 columns and I have 10 rows. 10 by 10 means that I've got 100 squares here. Okay, so each small square is 1/100th of the whole square. So 1 out of 100 is the same as 1%. So this orange shaded box here represents 1% of that whole diagram. It's 1 out of 100, so that's the fraction, and that is the same as 1%. Okay. Now I've shaded in a full row here, so there's 10 of them that are shaded in. So that means that it's 10% of the whole square, as it is 10 out of 100. Okay. Look now, what have we got? We've got 10 across the way, and then we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows, so it's 10 by 5, which is 50. So that is the equivalent of 50%. I've shaded half of this diagram in orange, okay? So 50% is the same as writing 50 out of 100, because 50 out of the 100 are shaded. Remember, if we're simplifying this, you can simply chop off the zeros. So if there's 1 on top, you can chop it with 1 in the bottom, which makes it 5 out of 10, which is both numbers are divisible by 5. 5 into 5 goes once, and 5 into 10 goes twice. 1/2 is the same as 0.5 if I want to write it as a decimal. Okay. What percentage do you think I've shaded now? It's 75%. 75 of these boxes here are shaded, so that is 75 over 100, which is the same as 3/4. If we write it as a decimal, 75% is the same as 0.75. Okay. Right, here, if you have a look at the diagram, I've shaded in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 rows. So that's 90 of them that is shaded in. Okay, so that is 90%, which is 90 out of the 100. Chop off the zeros again. So we can write it as 9 out of 10 if we want to simplify it. So as a decimal, it is 0.9, okay? Right, okay, here we've got 10 of the exact same grids as before. So each of these grids here has 100 squares, okay? So for this first one here, what I would like you to do is to count how many of the boxes are shaded blue. I would like you to write that as a fraction and as a percentage, okay? So I know there's 10 boxes along the row here, so I've got 10, 20. So as a fraction, I would say that that is 20 out of 100. So that is the same as 20%. Okay. Right, what I'd like you to do is just pause the video again, and I'd like you to try and answer the remaining 9. So, how many squares are shaded blue? Write this as a fraction of out of 100, and then write it as a percentage as well. Okay. Right, okay, so for the second one here, you should see that the 3 of the boxes are shaded. So as a fraction, guys, you should have it written as 3 out of 100, so your answer is 3%. Okay. For this one here, we've got one of the rows that are shaded in blue, so that is 10 boxes in total. So as a fraction, you should have 10 out of 100, and as a percentage, your answer should be 10%. Okay. Right, for this one here, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's 10 by 5, so 10 times 5 is 50. So half of it is shaded. So your answer would be 50 over 100, which is the same as 50%. Okay. Right, this one here, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 times 5 is 25, so 25 out of the 100s are shaded. So as a percentage, that is 25%. Okay. Okay, on to number 6 down here now. So instead of counting all these blue boxes individually, what I would do is I would say, right, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 across the way by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 down the way. 5 times 5 is 25. So I know that this white section here is 25 boxes. If I take that away from 100, that means that there's 75 shaded blue. So as a fraction, that would be 75 out of 100, which means as a percentage, that is 75%. Okay, right, on to number 7. There's one box that isn't shaded, so that means that 99 of them are shaded. So as a fraction, you should have that as 99 out of 100. Therefore, as a percentage, it is 99%. Okay. Right, on to number 8. Therefore, we have got 10 across this way. And then we've got 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So as a fraction, you should have 15 out of 100. Therefore, as a percentage, that is 15%. Okay. Right, on to the last two then. So number 9, we have got 10, 20, 30, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46. So as a fraction, you should have 46 out of 100, which is equal to 46%. Okay. Right, on to the last one, we have 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. So it's 80 out of 100. So you should have 80% as a percentage. Okay. Right, now we're going to move on to looking at comparing percentages, fractions and decimals. Okay, so If we have a look at this first one up here, our percentage is 50%. We should know by now that as a fraction we would simply just write that as 50 over 100. Okay. But the last step in this lesson is to therefore also write it as a decimal. 50% is a decimal, 50% is a half, so as a decimal we write it as 0.50. Now this end 0 on here, the one at the end, it doesn't actually have to be there, it's not needed, it's not significant. So we put it in as 0.5. Okay. Right, same process for 40%. So 40% as a fraction is 40 over 100. Therefore, as a decimal, we would say that it's 0.40, or you can just write it as 0.4. Okay. Right, 74% would be 74 over 100. Therefore, as a decimal, we would write that as 0.74. Okay. Right, slightly trickier for the next couple. 5% would be 5 over 100. So as a decimal, a wee bit different this time, that would be 0.05. Now the reason for that is when we're dividing by 100, we bring the decimal point back 2 places, so it goes 1, 2, put in our decimal point, and in any gaps we have, we fill them with a 0, so that's where the 0.05 comes from. 4%, same process. As a fraction, it would be 4 over 100, and as a decimal, it would be 0.04. Okay. Right, this time we're going to start with our fraction and see if we can change it into a percentage and into a decimal. If we have 32 over 100 as a percentage, that would be 32%, and as a decimal, we would write that as 0.32. For 1 over 100, as a percentage, that would be 1%, and as a decimal, that would be 0.01. Okay. Right, starting with the decimals this time, 0.68 as a percentage, that is 68%, and as a fraction, we would write it as 68 over 100. Okay. Right guys, what I'd like you to do is just to pause this video quickly and try and answer the next three for me. So 93%, what is it as a fraction and a decimal? 45 over 100, what is it as a percentage and a decimal? And 0.08, what is it as a percentage and a fraction? Okay. Okay, welcome back. So 93% you should have as a fraction, that is 93 over 100. And as a decimal, that is 0.93. Okay. 45 over 100 is 45%. And as a decimal, we would write that as 0.45. Okay. And on to the last one. 0.08 as a percentage is 8. And as a decimal, it is 8 over 100. Okay. Right guys, your turn. You're going to try the percentage worksheet. It's lesson 1. It is in the week 4 folder on the Teams page. Can you make sure once you've answered the questions that you mark all your work before you upload it to Notebook, and either give me or your teacher a wee email or anything like that if you're unsure of anything. Okay?